you can't be surprised that the AT2020 is back. Welcome back to the Rebel Tech channel. I'm Justin, and in this video we're going to be comparing old reliable, the AT2020 by Technica, and the not newer, but it is new to me, or newer to me, the Sterling SP150. Condenser microphones, cardioid polar pattern, and right around the same price range. I don't know exactly what the Sterling goes for, but I'm pretty sure it's right around that $100 mark. I got a little cheaper because I got a bundle. If you saw the solo video, you know that whole spiel. And the AT2020 has sat around $100 for the better part of like 2 decades. I can't remember when it came out, but I can imagine that it's been about 2 decades because I remember getting my first one about 10 years ago. So keep that in mind. So without any further ado, let's talk about the builds of these things, and they're very different. The Sterling is definitely taller and larger in size, but the AT2020 is more compact, and some people like that. Some people prefer the compact kind of package out of their microphone, so it's not like obstructing anything, but I can definitely say that it's not a deal breaker for me. Having a microphone that's a little bit bigger usually doesn't make that big of a difference. And this is not a microphone that you necessarily will be using on camera, even though I'm using it right now on camera, but it's kind of the point. You're probably going to use this in a booth or some type of voiceover situation, or even singing, something with a vocal performance, be it spoken word, singing, or whatever you may want with it. I'm sure you can use it for other things, acoustic guitar, maybe some other instruments that need a softer touch, but for this use case and this video, spoken word will be the thing. Hopefully one day I could do a singing video, but I'm not exactly a singer, so maybe I could find someone that could sing into these microphones. So back to the build. I really like the way that they're sturdy, and I say that a lot on this channel. I say that I love a sturdy microphone. Not only the fact that it makes me feel a little bit better about purchasing something, if it's well made, and it feels like I can drop it and be able to use it without any problems. Now, of course, you never want to drop your equipment. You never want to drop anything. But that feeling, which is hard to portray on camera, of the microphone. So if I was to feel that, give a little, handling noise on the Sterling. And then here on the AT2020, aside from their finish, to be honest, they're pretty well made, and they're pretty much on par with each other, which kind of gives a slight edge to the Sterling because it is a little cheaper. Not by much, but a little bit. But I will say it's pretty much even at this point with the build. Now I'm going to leave up some tech and specs and things that go into these microphones. If you're interested in anything about them, let me know down in the comments. I could do a separate video. I don't do techie talk on this channel anymore. I just leave up the tech and specs. Just want to get the audio samples to you in a more digestible video. So here are the tech and specs, and I will be right back with a noise test and off-axis. Alright, so that was your noise test. There's a dehumidifier in the other room. The mini fridge is off, and the computer is kind of humming. Not too bad, but the boost of 10 decibels might amplify some of it, but it is boosted, so keep that in mind. Also, my heavy breathing because my nose has been clogged, so you do it with myself here because you're going to be with the microphone. Chances are you're not recording something without someone in front of it, and unfortunately, breathing is a part of being human, so throughout this video, I've been about like 2-3 inches away, maybe 4 inches, depending on how much I move. And this is what it's going to sound like in my studio here. Kind of mildly treated, a lot of stuff in the room that certainly helps. And the booth walls help as well. So you kind of see them rolled up. All right, so now I'm about 2-3 feet away from the fronts of the microphones. This is what it's going to sound like in the studio here. And we're going to do a couple more different configurations. These both are cardioid, so I won't be doing sweet spot samples, but I will be doing 90 degrees and 180 because the heart-shaped cardioid polar pattern picks up in the front, rejects the back mostly, and then 90 degrees as well. All right, 90 degree side. About 2-3 feet away from the side of the Sterling, stage left right here. And this is what it's going to sound like in the studio. And we're going to go to the other side and do a 90 degree, a little closer to the AT2020. Now closer to the AT2020, about 2 feet away, roughly, to the AT2020, a little further to the Sterling. And this is what it's going to sound like in the studio. And the next thing we're going to do is do a audio sample of 180 degree rejection. All right, so 180 degrees, about 2 feet away from the rears of the microphones. This is what it's going to sound like in the studio here. And this is probably going to be your most rejected area. At least standard cardioid polar patterns is usually rejecting 180 mostly. But let me know in the comments what you think, or if you can't hear me, then that's great. All right, we're done in the studio. Gonna bring down the walls and do a booth test. A little bit more treated, but let me know if it actually makes a difference. Because I really do think it makes a difference, but you guys let me know. Okay, so we're in the booth right now. Sterling SP150 and AT2020. I'm noticing something with this Sterling mic. You're noticing a difference in quality. I could definitely hear like where it's lacking in certain areas, like the noise, like the natural noise of the microphone is certainly one that stands out. And the more I listen to this microphone, the more that I feel that it's made for its price point. It might look a little more fancy than the price point makes it out to be, but I think that the price is right for it. Not to knock it too much, but I just feel like it's, for a mic that's around $100 or right under $100, it sounds like it. So let's do a plosive test. And I'm just going to do it with the pop filter and then without. AT2020. It's okay. Sterling. It's okay. These microphones need a pop filter, so let's talk into them without the pop filter here. See if it makes a difference. I don't think it does make a big difference, but it might make a little bit of a difference. So I'm listening to Sterling right now, and I really do feel like this microphone has potential. It does have a potential to be a good first microphone. But the problem I have with it is, why would you go for this microphone if you have something like the AT2020 to go to? It's emphasizing some of my nasally voice, and maybe it's because I'm listening to it live. Obviously, that's a different listening experience, listening to it live. But I just feel like a boxy kind of tone. Let's switch. With the AT2020, maybe it is my voice. I don't know. You guys let me know down in the comments if you hear like a boxy, like mid-tone, like I guess nasally is the best way I could put it. My ears might be off, and my nose is definitely off, I could tell you that. So one last thing, let's do a close proximity off-axis test. 90 degrees to the AT2020. This is what it's going to sound like in the booth right now, about 6 inches, 7 inches away from the AT2020, a little bit further to the Sterling. Now on the Sterling side, about 6 inches away from the Sterling, this is what it's going to sound like in the booth here. Close proximity test with off-axis orientation. Sure, that's the word. All right, lastly, 180 degrees, about 7 inches, 8 inches away from the Sterling. Rear 180 degree test. This is what it's going to sound like. And on the AT2020, this is what it's going to sound like behind 180 degrees. And this is not how you talk into a microphone, just so you know. So now let's go to the untreated room, see how these things fare in a reflective room. It's not super reflective, but it does have flat walls that could be a problem. Okay, so untreated room right now. This is my bedroom. simple, I guess, 8 by 15 room, something like that. More of a rectangle rather than a square. And there's some soft surfaces, like my bed, and there's a carpet underneath me. And the ceiling is pretty flat, just a light. And that's pretty much it. I'm closer to this wall. There's more depth behind me, so keep that in mind when we're doing the distance, and I'll let you know roughly how far I am away. So this is what it's going to sound like for both these microphones, AT2020, Sterling SP150, and what you're going to have to deal with certain rooms. So different rooms have different acoustics, obviously, and sometimes even using a simple anything like soft surface, a blanket, a moving blanket, or if you want to spend a little bit more, use a sound blanket, which my experience with them, they're not much different, especially if you double up a moving blanket. So keep that all in mind. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to do distance and work our way around. And I'll try to get the microphones in a central position, because I noticed in a couple of videos, especially the boomed ones, that being up against the wall was not good for it. So keep that in mind when you're recording stuff. Alright, so I'm about like 4-ish feet away from the fronts of the microphones. This is what it's going to sound like in the untreated room. It is on top of a wood floor right now, the stand I mean, and it's like half carpet, or half rug technically, and half wood floor. Some stuff around the bed as well, so keep that in mind. The reflections off that wall might not be too like bouncy because there are shelves and things on it, but there could be some off the ceiling and maybe off the wood floor. Now 90 degrees on the Sterling side, stage left, and this is what it's going to sound like in the untreated room. Both of these are cardioid polar patterns, so 90 degrees should be pretty resistant to noise. Is that the proper word? Sure. It's not supposed to dampen it completely because you're still getting reflections off walls in the room, but as far as like the direct line of sight from my voice to the 90 degree, this is what it's going to sound like. Next, 90 degrees on the AT2020 side, stage right. This is what it's going to sound like in the untreated room. And like I said, cardioid polar patterns and 90 degrees should be pretty resistant to noise directly. The reflections off the surfaces in front of it, that's another story. Now lastly, 180 degrees on the Sterling SP150 and the AT2020. This is what it's going to sound like in the untreated room. And like I said, just cardioid polar patterns, and you let me know how much different it is with this 180 compared to the other off-axis rejection we did before. All right, so let's go to the studio and do a little outro. All right, so before I reveal the winner, now maybe the audio is a dead giveaway, but maybe it's not. Leave in the comments which one you prefer and which one I chose as the winner. Pause it right now, and I will reveal in 3, 2, 1. Yes, the Sterling SP150 is my choice between this and the AT2020. Now, I love the AT2020. I love Audio-Technica. But in these tests and the way that I heard it, it just was just slightly better. And let me explain. Let me go through my notes and I'll explain my thought process. When in the studio, I felt like the tone and the off-axis was pretty even. So it was at the point where it was like, this is a really good option. And I was kind of leaning towards the Sterling because of the fact that it is cheaper in some aspects. Not by much, but it is cheaper technically. Now when it came to the booth is where I really got a good idea of what the tone is. The 2020 was a little more airy, a little more neutral and natural probably. Neutral and natural kind of go hand in hand, but I'm going to go with more neutral rather than natural. And then the Sterling I noticed had a little more low in there, low mid, in that section there, maybe like 500 or so. And the last thing in the booth, the off-axis in close proximity definitely goes to the Sterling. It was very surprising to have this microphone be that good with the off-axis. But in the solo video, I did mention that the sensitivity could have something to do with it, but I'm not really sold on it yet. Now, lastly, with the untreated room. When it was being used in regular use, meaning speaking into it like this, I felt like the Sterling was definitely better at not absorbing that outside noise, that outside reflection. Not by much, but a little bit. Now, with the off-axis, I'm going to give a slight edge to the Sterling only because overall I noticed that it was pretty good at rejecting the noise coming off the walls and all the flat surfaces. Now, of course, it wasn't a perfect, like, square room or really reflective room, so I couldn't really give a proper, really bad environment. Maybe one day I'll do a video in a really bad environment. I just got to find one. Or maybe just take stuff out of a room and record stuff, which is probably the opposite of what you want to do. But regardless, this microphone surprised me. This microphone definitely came up to the plate and knocked it out of the park, at least for what it's worth. For a microphone right around $100, a condenser microphone, for someone's first condenser microphone, you wouldn't be wrong to choose this one. You wouldn't be wrong for choosing the AT2020. I've been touting about the AT2020 for years. And now this one, if you can get it, I would get it. Especially with the bundle with the 130. Because even if you're not going to use it, it's nice to have it. Just in case you change your mind later on. And it's a good deal. I think it was right around $100 and it might have been on sale. So keep an eye out. Definitely on sale. I noticed that Musician's Friend has it, and Guitar Center or some other places have it. Just look it up. Sterling SP150. That's basically all you got to do. I got it from Musician's Friend, and I buy a lot of stuff from there because I could finance my microphones and gear and stuff. So that's why I do it. So that's all I got for you. That is the comparison between the Sterling SP150 and the AT2020. Maybe one day I'll revisit these microphones. Actually, I'll definitely revisit these microphones again in a bigger setting. And maybe I'll feel differently. Everybody hears things differently. We grow, we learn, and we just, maybe one day I wasn't feeling it, and maybe another day I am. So let me know down in the comments what you feel. All I ask is you be nice. I really want to know people's opinions about this microphone because it's not something that people talk about a lot, as I mentioned sometime in the past. So if you like the video, please like the video, hit the like button, you know that thing down there. It really helps the video. Comments definitely help. All this stuff, engagement really helps the video and gets it out to more people who are looking to make content and looking to get good quality out of things that don't break the bank. And speaking of things that don't break the bank, subscribing is free. So it'd be greatly appreciated. Only if you like my vibe around here. That really is my concept. If you like what I'm doing here, the way that I am, my personality, me as a person, even though you don't know me much, you just know that I talk into microphones like a crazy person, please consider subscribing. It would be greatly appreciated. And that's all I got for you. Until next time, take care. I'll see you rebels in the next video.